Hello out there, my Boomer Time family. It's so good to see you here. And, I really am glad you're here. Of course, I'm your host, Nancy Kogar, and this is Boomer Time. This is where we unpack all issues related to aging, whether it's legal or whether it's quality of life. It's my objective to make the complex clear and the future less frightening while better protecting you, your assets, and your family as you age. We've talked about it before, but the silver tsunami is headed our way. You might say, what does that mean? Well, it's a term used to describe the demographic shift caused by baby boomers aging out. Really, between 1946 and 1964, that age group, which I'm on the tail end of, is entering retirement and aging. It won't be long before there are more of this age group in our country than any other group. And, that wave creates a range of challenges and opportunities, everything from healthcare to housing, even the workforce. So, just a reminder here, I want you to be better prepared for that. When it comes to estate planning, options for caregiving, just long-term care planning, and all the other legal and quality of life issues that I mentioned that come with it. This is not just a Florida issue. Smaller communities like Chattanooga are growing. People are coming from other places, and we're feeling it too. Those challenges that come with everything from housing, like I said, transportation, health, trying to find long-term care facilities, finance, you name it. Boomer Time focuses on more of these issues, and it's my objective to prepare you to better face those challenges. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about, you might say, a sensitive topic, and it may be one of those that's really one of the toughest to talk about: death and dying. Don't turn off the podcast yet. I think this is really beneficial, and you're going to learn some things, and I think this is going to help you. We need to talk about these things. What do you want done with your body when you're gone? Have you thought about that? You really should. It's not as simple as you might think. And if you don't plan, you may be leaving a significant financial burden on your loved ones. So there are lots of options, more than you may realize, and I'm going to talk about some of those. How do you want to go out? Do you want to do it the traditional way? Do you want to do it your way? I've got folks that don't want a funeral at all, or maybe want a big party, and some are even donating their body to science, their entire body. Others may opt for more traditional things, burial or cremation. So whatever you're thinking, or if you haven't thought about it, this is a very important topic. And there's really no escaping it, right? Unless we have some divine intervention that comes to call us home, But, I think God tells us to be prepared, so that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to make you better prepared about the options available for what they call the final disposition of your body, and really talk about why you should plan for this and what might happen, burial blunders, if you don't. Even some of the more bizarre options, and I call them bizarre for a reason, have been people have prepared for their final farewell. So I've got a host of things I'm going to talk about. I think it's really interesting and, hopefully helpful. And we're going to talk about this stuff when I come back. Welcome back to Boomer Time. I'm your host, Nancy Kogar, and we are talking about death and dying and the final instructions that you leave for you and your remains and your final affair, your memorial service, funeral, party. How do you want to go? Do you want to become cremated? Do you want to become composted? You can do it. Do you want to be shot into space or into the sea? People are doing it. Uh, do you want a Viking burial on an open pyre? Well, if you do, it's going to require some planning and a financial investment because there's only certain places you can do these things. So before we get into the options, though, I thought it might be interesting to take a look at a couple of send-offs that some other folks had opted for, and they really range from the basic to the ultra extreme, and they're all true. So how about this one? This was a Beverly Hills socialites plan. When she was young, she was 48 years old, Sandra Eileen West. And you can look this up. It made the newspapers out there. She's a Beverly Hills socialite. And she was buried sitting in the driver's seat of her 1964 powdered blue Ferrari. She was also wearing her favorite lace nightgown. So that all took some doing because there's lots of environmental and legal hoops that you have to jump through. Cars have hazardous materials in them, and people are worried whether that breakdown over time, it could harm the environment, the water system. I don't know. But the vehicle and Ms. West were encased in concrete. They didn't want anybody digging up the car and stealing it, I guess. 300 people showed up to watch what was involved with burying her with her car. You want to see her, she's buried over by the Alamo in Texas. And like I said, it made the newspapers back then. That's pretty extreme, but interesting. So I found another story about an attorney who died, and his wife buried him with his beloved cell phone. And here's what's worse. She continued to pay the bill for the cell phone, and his gravestone had the phone number on it for anyone interested in leaving a message. You think she was a little bit bitter about him, the time he spent on the cell phone? Sure sounds like it to me. Well, those calls aren't getting returned anytime soon. What do you think? Here's one for sports fans that I thought, this is a little extreme. A family member of a Pittsburgh Steelers superfan transformed the entire funeral home with a small stage and furniture from the dead guy's house and placed him in his favorite recliner, gave him his remote control, beer, and cigarettes. And so that was so he could comfortably watch a loop of Steelers football games on TV. I think they're missing something there, but I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. So these are just a bit of them out there, and most people would never choose this kind of send-off for their remains and probably couldn't afford it anyway, right? Let me know with your comments. Maybe you've got a bizarre one to add to the mix. But the truth is, really, and the reason I have this episode today is most people, struggle with even the most basic burial decisions. Of course, no one wants to think about dying, right? But the truth is, we all should. Sometimes family members, have big burial plots that have room for generations, to rest. But you're not seeing that as much. I don't see that as much anymore. Space is at a premium. And we're all moving around a lot more, right? So home may just not be home anymore. I've seen some horror stories too, I'm sure you have too, with the less than reputable funeral homes. That can make you think twice, but the best way, I think, to avoid that is to put a plan in place with someone you know and you trust. Of course, you can move forward with the purchase of an advanced burial plan, which can include, final funeral or memorial service, the burial, and everything that goes with it. And those can be expensive, but they can be deductible, from any long-term care costs. And you've got a plan in place and your family doesn't have to make those decisions. So I find that's a real blessing. Funeral or memorial service, it's not about you anyway, right? It's about those you left behind. So there are a lot more options available to you and give you the opportunity, some of them, to leave a legacy behind with your body. I want to talk about that in just a minute. Well, most of us spend a fair amount of time thinking about how they want to impact the world while we're here, but most of us don't spend a lot of time thinking about how we might impact the world after we've died. Probably for obvious reasons, right? While cremation and traditional burials continue to be the leading disposition options in the United States, there are now a lot more for those interested in thinking outside the box, quite literally, right? Here are 7 alternatives that you may not have thought of, and it's not an exhaustive list, okay? There are a lot more. I just thought these were interesting. So, number 1, if you want to be earth friendly, you can demand an eco friendly disposition. These keep increasing. There's a growing number of what they call green cemeteries. They are certified by the Green Burial Council. Some of the key factors of a green burial include embalming with environmentally friendly products, the use of biodegradable burial containers or shrouds, compostable, I guess, and grave marker restrictions aimed at preserving natural views. On top of that, environmental benefit supporters often feel that there's a more natural contribution to the cycle of life this way. So that brings me to my next option, which is composting. You can even take it a step further, when you're looking at environmental last wishes, and you can have your remains composted. It's called, if you want to look it up, a natural organic reduction. And it's still a form of final disposition where your bod is buried in the ground. Okay? But the key difference is that it's buried with natural organic reduction materials. There's no casket, there are no trinkets, and you don't have any regular clothes on, but you're put into the burial plot, your body is, that is, and it's not meant to stay there. So all the organic materials in there with your body will break down into compost for plants over the next 30 to 90 days. That'd be nice for having a garden dedicated to you. Well, you remember seeing this in the old black and white movies. They still do it, resting at sea. You could still consider a burial at sea. This was primarily used, of course, originally for those who died while serving in the Navy. But interest in these full body burials at sea, full body burial, okay, this is not cremation, is increasing, both from those seeking a more eco-friendly burial option, as well as those that feel connected to the ocean. They appreciate the symbolism there. And if you go this route, your body will be put overboard in a biodegradable weighted shroud. Be forewarned, though, due to the need to have a charter boat and comply with regulations, a full body burial at sea can be expensive, upwards of $10,000. I've had some clients opt for this one, and this is another one where you either have to believe in it or not, and that is donate your entire body to science. Donating cadavers, or your body, plays an important role in medical training and research. Many medical schools have anatomical gift programs. That includes the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. It has a body farm, they call it, which is available to medical students. And the donated cadavers are used to learn anatomy and surgery techniques before they cut into a living person. That makes sense, right? And as an added perk, most medical schools cover the cost of transportation, you know, generally within a specific area, but they'll come get the body. And they'll also cover cremation once they're finished with using the cadaver. So it really makes it one of the most affordable methods of final disposition. And you're making a difference, right? You're helping future doctors and medical staff learn about the human body. So you're helping someone else that might be helped by them in the future. Also, with the help of, certain diseases, dementia or Alzheimer's, especially, uh, donating your body after your death can help with that kind of research as well. Well, here's one I wouldn't necessarily think of, but fighting crime. Ever thought about donating your body to a forensic research facility to help those students learn about body decomposition and those types of things for police evaluating crime scenes? I see a lot of those shows. Maybe if you're into that, you may be helping professionals solve real future crimes. Okay. That could be a way to give back once you're done with your body. Tennessee is on board with that and it has an option, but not all states do. So you should check on that. Well, what do you think so far? These are interesting ideas, aren't they? I've got a few more when I come back. Interesting options, huh? I know, I thought they were interesting. Some of them I've heard, some of them I haven't. Um, there are a lot more out there. It's worth considering, I think. Here's two more for you. If you didn't like any of those, how about sending your ashes into space? Maybe Elon can put you on one of those rockets. I don't know. But if you prefer to leave our atmosphere, you've had it with Earth, and you want to be sent into the unknown or the great beyond of the universe, you can choose to have your ashes sent into space. There are companies that will do that for you. It's an option, okay? You have multiple options. You could be orbited around Earth. You could have your cremains sent to a planet or the moon. There's a company talking about starting to put cremated remains on the moon. It's just everybody's got something, right? It just doesn't surprise me anymore. But these are things that are out there. And I do think, bottom line, these are important. These are important issues not to ignore. And you should sit down and examine these and talk with your family about these and develop a plan. So one more. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, right, you may opt for a Viking burial. What do you think of that? Funeral pyre and open air cremation. Well, if that's for you, there's only one place in the United States where that's permissible at the moment, and it's in Colorado. So there's an end-of-life project there that's established a legal permanent cement pyre, which they conduct open-air cremations, Viking funerals, through the service that's available to people there. I don't know if people from other states can ask to use it. There's some concerns about, the smoke that comes from the fires, but, they say that's minimal. And they're not depleting wood. They are using pine from some of the beetle kill trees. So they say that's helping to prevent future forest fires. The whole cremation takes about 2 hours and uses about a fourth a cord of wood. Game of Thrones send off anyone? Any of these appeal to you? Like I said, I'm always surprised at what people come up with, and these are not that far off from what I've heard. So not for everybody. That's okay. Do you have an idea? Have you heard another one? Share it with me. Reach out to me at nancykogar.com. All right. Well, just a few final thoughts. As I began, the bottom line is that we should be giving this final disposition of remains, what we want to happen after we pass to our body and so forth, some less than cursory thought. We should spend some time thinking about this seriously and make some decisions and put something behind it so that what you want happens. Burials and memorial services, those can be a significant expense. Some families just don't have the resources for that. That can lead to other things too. I talked about burial blunders. That's possible. You'd have to go to the county and ask the county to help with cremation or disposal of the remains. And they don't always do that. So it makes sense. And of course, I want to say too that just creates more grief and stress for people that are grieving over you. So it makes sense, come on, to put something in place, even if it's simple. All right? It's really a gift, like I said, to those you leave behind. And you are avoiding potential confusion and conflict. This is an emotional time, right? Talked about those scenes at the funeral home. It's happened. Let's not do that. So, final disposition of remains is what we talk about as part of the estate planning process as well. I'm not going to force you to go one way or another, but it is part of the discussion. And we do talk about these things. And I think you should. I think it should be part of your estate plan. So why not? You're leaving instructions about what you want to happen to your stuff, right? What about what happens to you, right? Plus, you need to give someone the authority to claim and dispose your body. Now, sometimes there's issues with that, getting a body released. Worst case scenario is that you don't have anything available to you. Like I said, the family would have to petition the county for disposal of your body. Make sure that your family is taken care of with a reputable business that they can rely on. They're already having a hard enough time experiencing the loss, right? So, want some help with that? Call me. We can schedule a strategy session and we can take care of all of it. All right? I'll see you soon.